What's up, fellow Square Gamers? I'm Jay, this is Nate, and today we're going to be talking about Far Cry as a franchise. And the question that I have, Nate, is do you think that Far Cry needs a reboot? Do you think that they need to go back to the drawing board and all the Far Cries that we've had thus far? So the first one, you're stranded on an island and you're like a predator on the island. You have supernatural abilities. You can take certain drugs and it can give you supernatural abilities where you can move fast. You can leap long distances, climb up mountainside. Then in the second one, it was more serious. So you went to Africa and you were on the search for these blood diamonds. The militia and all that stuff going on over in Africa was addressed in the game. You had malaria in this game that you had to constantly be monitoring. So that was a new interesting mechanic. Then in the third one, and diehard fans of the series such as myself, we consider this the pinnacle of the series. Far Cry 3 was so good. Probably one of the best villains like in video game history. His name was Voss. Interesting enough, he was not even the main villain in the game. I even forget the main villain's name, but Voss was like the right hand man to the main villain. But anyways, he gave the famous line. What is the definition of insanity? And then he pushes you off, the cliffside, and you got a cinder block tied to your leg, and like you're about to drown. But in the third one, again, you're stranded on this island that's being used to grow marijuana, and there's a lot of drug trade going on there. Then in the fourth one, you go to, where was it? Do you remember?
Nepal, right?
Yeah, you go to Nepal. They introduce a mechanic there where you can start using animals at your disposal and calling them to kind of aid you in combat and things of that nature. Real interesting mechanic. The game fell a little flat for a lot of people. Pagan Min was the main villain in that game. They tried to do in 4 what they were able to do in 3 by building this really cool villain. I think it felt a little flat. I think that's everyone's overall opinion on it. And then in the latest Far Cry, which was Far Cry Primal, it went back to prehistoric times and you were part of a tribe. Very interesting game. Got a lot of negative energy because people were saying that they completely used the same map in 4 and then just copy and paste it over into 5 and change the aesthetic a little bit. That being said, 5 was still a commercial success for them. It sold really well. I played it. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed all of them. Beat all of them except for 4. 4 was really kind of not so great for me. So the question of does it need to be rebooted is kind of a weird question to ask when technically they reboot it every time they put a new one out because it's always a new story. But things that they keep having in the game is like the whole outpost mechanic where you take it out, you can use stealth, or you can go in there guns ablazing, and like just ways to unlock areas in the map where like you climb up like a large radio tower. Like the mechanics feel really samey, like they don't change up that variation much at all. And the way the game actually plays, the whole sandbox open world style that it has, and the mission structure, they're all the same. And my question to you, Nate, is do you think that they need to kind of refresh that formula? And do you think that they need to commit to like a group of characters and like build upon the lore, and like when they start putting out the games, should all the stories start correlating and like the next one will be in that same universe, or do you like these one-offs that they do?
I kind of like the one-off idea. I mean, I'm a fan of the Final Fantasy franchise, and they follow a similar formula. Mm-hmm. Every installment in that franchise is its own standalone story. with reoccurring themes. I think Far Cry could benefit from that. Just continue to give us standalone stories, but I think it's important to keep some of those gameplay mechanics in there, but definitely innovate on them at the same time.
Right, because a lot of people's thing is like it's almost like they're just kind of reskinning the same game and putting it in like different stories, and like sometimes the stories can be hit or miss, and they find new ways to do the same thing basically. So
yeah, I think it's important that when you're building a franchise like this, you have to keep some elements the same, because that's what defines it as a franchise.
True.
But I think, fan feedback is something that you really have to look at as well. What worked? What did players like? What did they not like?
Right.
Adjust your game to those standards, and then throw in a few new things if you have stuff on the board to put into the game. And that's how you keep a game interesting over time. I think maybe part of the problem with the Far Cry series is that maybe they were on too tight a schedule to get a new game out.
Do you think it could be like franchise fatigue? Like
for the developers, yeah, and that reflects back on consumers because we're not getting probably the variety that we expect in the game, right?
Yeah.
We're getting more of the same with reskins instead of, like completely well thought out new areas and new stories and new missions and stuff like that. So, you've got to change it up enough that it feels different, but you have to still hang on to a few things to, anchor it to that franchise.
Yeah, because something I always think about when I think of Far Cry is what they just did with Assassin's Creed, right? Where everyone was wondering, like, how long they were going to make that an annual game, and it's like, there was that whole thing, everyone's saying, well, until it's not a commercial success, they're probably going to put them out every year. Well, that wasn't the truth. They decided to put Assassin's Creed on the shelf for a little while and really flesh out this next one. I mean, they probably could have put one out this year, and it probably would have done well for them. But I like the fact that Ubisoft is like, no, we're gonna put this on the shelf for a while, and we're really gonna flesh it out, and we're gonna give it a couple years to kind of go away, and then we're gonna bring it back in a new way. I almost wonder if that's like what they're going to do with Far Cry. They haven't really said, right? This is the first year where Primal came out in February. Beforehand, like, they put Far Cry games out, in November, right alongside like Call of Duty and other shooters, and it do well enough. This was the first year it came out in February. Primal came out, and we didn't see anything about Far Cry at E3. There's been no talks about the game, so I find it kind of interesting that nobody in the industry is asking the question of when we'll see the next one. Like, nobody's really talking about it, and I find that really interesting, being that it's one of Ubisoft's flagship games. And like, why do you think that nobody's talking about that?
Maybe there is franchise fatigue there. I mean, Ubisoft has so many franchises anyway that they're working on. It would probably be beneficial for them to
maybe start rotating their franchises out.
Right. Give us a couple of years, 2 or 3 years between installments, and really give us something new instead of trying to pump these out 1 year at a time, and that's just insane. So I think it's probably a good thing, right? Because we're in a day and age where we get so much information on games so quickly that we have time to overhype games, to make all kinds of speculations on games. So maybe it's a good thing that we're not hearing a whole lot about it as of yet. It'll leave some mystery around the game, and maybe by the time they do announce it, it'll be something fresh for us. Instead of like expected. Here's another Far Cry game. It'll be more like the next Far Cry game.
Right.
Well, look what they're doing. So it's probably a good thing that we haven't heard a whole lot yet.
Yeah, some of the things I think about, like what I would want out of a new Far Cry game, like. It's kind of hard because anytime I think that I want something and then the next Far Cry gets announced, I'm like, oh my god, that sounds really awesome. It's almost like they know what I want out of a Far Cry game more than I know. But one area that I think that they could definitely improve on is they've always tried to make their multiplayer different, and it hasn't always been successful for them. They've never really been able to hold an audience. They even took multiplayer out of the last Far Cry game. So I kind of wonder if that's something that they intend to do moving forward, to where they completely just make these single player games. But one thing that like I always think of is the best thing to do in a Far Cry game is to take those outposts. I love the way that you can go at it however you want to, and I always just think that they could make a Far Cry game where you're only doing that, just like taking outposts. And I always think that if they could figure out a way to make the co-op a little deeper, to where like you and your buddy hop online and like you take out these outposts like cooperatively, like and go deeper in that system. Like maybe like you could buff me in some capacity. Like one of the fun things to do is like when you have those berserker darts in Far Cry, you can make the enemies like turn into tanks and like destroy the village for you. Wouldn't it be cool if you could do that to me? Like you could shoot me with a dart like while I'm on the other side and give me buffs. Like we could buff each other. I don't think their multiplayer was bad enough to where they should scrap it, but I think I think that it needed some help, which maybe that's why we didn't see it in Primal. I don't know if it's going to be a feature that we see return. I don't know if it's going to be single player moving forward. What's your thoughts?
It might be better for them to focus on single player until they really get something interesting down. But having a multiplayer experience in a game like that is also pretty cool as well, especially with an open sandbox title and coordinating attacks to take down outposts. Like I can really see the appeal in doing that. So maybe not completely abandon it, but until they get to a point where they can make it a deeper experience, maybe leave it on the back burner until they really get it ironed out all the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Where's a place you'd like to visit in the next Far Cry? If you could go anywhere.
I really like that they went back in time with Far Cry Primal.
Yeah.
I really like to see something more in that vein.
Maybe dinosaur era?
Well, we're kind of getting that with Zero Dawn. I'd have to say, I want to see more time periods that are unfamiliar. Give us something else along those lines. Yeah, and because I like the way that they made a first-person shooter without any guns. Like, I thought that was pretty clever.
Yeah.
To try to pull that off, so...
Yeah, the workarounds, like I'm saying, like, reskinned ideas. Like, instead of having a grenade, you had a bee bomb to where you could throw honey at an enemy, and, like, bees would surround and attack them. Like, to me, that was hilarious. And what was really cool, too, is, like, once the swarm would kill one enemy, if there was another enemy in proximity, it attacked him and kill them too.
Right.
Like that was awesome. And like in Primal, you could watch like cavemen and women having sex. Like they need more of that kind of humor in the game, and like it was historically accurate. Like I thought that was kind of cool too. I think I would love to actually see it go back to like the dinosaur time. I think they could do some really interesting things there. Imagine like 1 minute you're just foraging in the forest, like getting some items together, and like all of a sudden this T-Rex shows up. Like that'd be kind of amazing.
Yeah.
Or like you need to unlock a certain area in the map, but to do so you need to get real high. So what if you get on a brontosaurus and climb up him? Like I feel like they could do some fun things and like find some new fun ways to interact with the dinosaurs. And like I see what you're saying. We're kind of getting that from Horizon, but Horizon's kind of a little steampunky because you got like futuristic
robo
dinosaurs. I would like to get some actual dinosaurs, and when Primal was being worked on, like beforehand, like Ubisoft was asking the hardcore like what time period they wanted. Everyone was saying they wanted dinosaurs in the game. So it's kind of like they almost gave everyone that, but it's like they didn't fully commit. And I almost wonder if it's because they want to flesh out that idea. Like I can really really truly see dinosaurs being the next thing they go with. So yeah, I just wanted to get your take on that topic. Uh, Again, Far Cry is one of my most beloved franchises, and I do think it does need like a not necessarily a reboot, but a refresh.
Yeah.
You know, like kind of go back to the drawing board and like things that are starting to feel stale, cut it and find some other things to do. And you know, in my opinion, I think they can scrap the multiplayer like PvP. I'd like to do some more things cooperatively. I think this game could be really fun cooperatively.
Yeah, I think co-op is the way to go with that franchise.
Yeah,
definitely.
Super good idea. Thanks for watching, guys. Drop a comment. Let us know what you want to see in the next Far Cry game, and let us know what you think that Ubisoft should do. Should they, keep doing what they're doing, or should they refresh it? Let us know in the comments, and keep it locked right here for more Far Cry content. Later, guys.